So, thank you for choosing to be part of this spiritual community today. And after 27 months of being online only, today we're celebrating our last online only Sunday service, at least for a little while. While I've been on sabbatical during the month of May, a host of individuals have stepped up to take care of the day to day operations of this center and worked the monumental task of getting ready for us to resume in person services and broadcast and Zoom and live stream next Sunday. I remain totally grateful to every one of you, all of you individually and all together, because it's not a small thing we're pulling off next week. And it won't happen without glitches, but hey, it's happening for the first time ever. So I'm excited about that. And I trust that if you weren't here to hear the 5 speakers that spoke while I was gone, you'll take the time to go to our YouTube channel and have a look at what they each brought to the room. They were all very different. Each one had a piece of the story, and each one brought totally amazing messages, perfect for that Sunday, perfect for the topic of memory, and how we can use our stories to entrap ourselves or to free ourselves. So we've now entered June, and the beginning of the heat buildup that generally brings the monsoons. And of course, because it's June, and because we really want to sing the monsoons into existence, we've begun to sing Garrett and Martin's I Dreamed of Rain. It's just our part to call those summer rains in. So June typically is about how we use our imagination and creativity in support of living the life we choose. So here's the deal. We can't help it. We're always using our imagination. It's how we're wired. And we always have a choice about how we use it. That part's not built in, the choice, the decision part, the choice part. We're always free to choose easy, or we can choose hard, or something in between. And sometimes it seems like we really need things to be hard. And that's okay too. I know I've unconsciously at different times in my past made things hard for me. It just happens, right? It's part of being human. So Dr. Holmes wrote in a little book called Living Without Fear on page 50 and 51. There is this question, however, which naturally arises. Why all the suffering, sorrow, and pain? Why has tragedy accompanied the journey of man, of humanity? Again, our imagination may answer this question in a somewhat plausible manner. There is no way through which there is no other way through which true individuality can evolve. Humans must be let alone to discover themselves, else be compelled arbitrarily to follow one road, in which case they would be automatons and not individuals. So cultural conditioning, what everybody knows, is biased towards being fearful and frightened, scared. You know, you watch the news. How easy it is to be scared of the world right now. And you know how easy it is to fall into the trap of believing that scary is the way our world really is. And I'm going to call that belief system out right now. It's a lie. It's not the truth. It certainly is the experience we're having, especially when we watch the 24/7 constantly negative news, or talk to any of the fearmongers we know. But it's not the capital T truth of who we are, or what our life is. And even if we personally get a diagnosis or have something unsettling or terribly horrible happen to us, to our family or friends, to our community and our neighborhood, it's still not the truth of who we are. We are in charge of remembering that, as hard as it is sometimes. From the 13th century Sufi mystic poet Rumi, today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. So how do we remember to pick up those musical instruments? How do we remember to kneel and kiss the ground? Or as in the Hafiz quote that I'm going to be building all of the talks this month around, the quote goes, you know this one, you've heard it before, the small man builds cages for everyone he knows, while the sage, who has to duck his head when the moon is low, keeps dropping keys all night long to the beautiful rowdy prisoners. How do we remember? We already are that sage. We already are that key. And if we've thought we were the jailer or the prisoner, we're confused, we're mistaken. We have to remember that we're in charge of our interpretation of our experience. So tomorrow evening, we're going to begin discussing Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart at 5 p.m. on this Zoom channel. I hope you'll join us. If you aren't sure you want to purchase the book, you can listen to it on YouTube. We'll be looking at the introduction and the first chapter tomorrow night. You might ask, what's the first chapter about? It's called Places We Go When Things Are Uncertain or Too Much. Sounds perfect for right now, doesn't it? And the emotions discussed? Stress, overwhelm, anxiety, worry, avoidance, excitement, fear, dread, and vulnerability. Part of your brain may be asking, what else is there? It's a nice little chunk. It will make for a very action-packed 90-minute discussion, I'm sure. So why are we looking at this book right now? In her introduction, Brene Brown wrote, without understanding how our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors work together, it's almost impossible to find our way back to ourselves and each other. When we don't understand how our emotions shape our thoughts and decisions, we become disembodied from our own experiences and disconnected from each other. She also wrote, language is our portal to meaning-making, connection, healing, learning, and self-awareness. Having access to the right words can open up entire universes. When we don't have the language to talk about what we're experiencing, our ability to make sense of what's happening and share it with others is severely limited. Without accurate languaging, we struggle to get the help we need. We don't always regulate or manage our emotions or experiences in ways that allow us to move through them productively. And our self-awareness is limited. Language shows us that naming our experience doesn't give the experience more power. It gives us more power in understanding and creating meaning for what's happening. We know that our thoughts and feelings and emotions are entwined. You could even say entangled. And I'm not going to debate whether emotions or feelings come first. It doesn't really matter. I do know that being able to use accurate words to describe how we're feeling in an experience that we're having right now gives us power over how we perceive and project that experience. Most of you know the first rule of effective spiritual mind treatment. Thoughts plus feeling, emotive words, equals demonstration. Words without the desired emotional lift are just empty words. They might feel good to say, but not really. They don't have the power or the desired impact because we don't embody those words. Feeling is important. Knowing what we're feeling is important. Understanding how we engage in the world because of what we're feeling is important. And getting the language for those feeling words gives us tools to be able to speak mightily and powerfully and claim what we actually desire to have happen in our lives. So, like many of you, I've been reading through the Science of Mind text according to the, read a chapter a day thing. And in one of this past week's readings, Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote, it was page 180, "The greatest good that can come to anyone is the forming within themselves of an absolute certainty of themselves and of their relationship to the universe, forever removing the sense of heaven as outside themselves. Such an understanding teaches us that there can never come a time when we shall stop progressing, that age is an illusion, that limitation is a mistake, that unhappiness is ignorance. This understanding shall rob humans of their loneliness and give them a sense of security which knows no fear, a peace without which no life can be happy, a poise which is founded in this peace, and a power which is the result of the union of peace and poise." So where do all those good feelings come from? Within ourselves. When we realize the universe and everything in it is for our good, for our awakening, for our continued expansion. We are the ones who have that key that opens the door of any jail we put ourselves in. And we have the wisdom to use it when we remember, when we stop and realize that this is so. So I had the opportunity this week to hear Dr. Jean Houston speak over Zoom. She's the one who wrote the foreword to the Science of Mind text 20 or so years ago. The foreword is worth rereading if you haven't looked at it in a while. She encouraged her audience, which was mostly ministers and practitioners, to lean into these times that we're in right now and not be engulfed by them, and to remember that even tumultuous times, difficult times, challenging times always precede, come before, times of renaissance. It has to get real funky and weird before we can up-level and take the next step. This feels to me like a major time of opportunity, of shifting away from looking outside ourselves for guidance, motivation, and instruction and direction towards being able to see that internal motivation, that God within, that lives in every single one of us. Every single one of us. And we have the key to be that, to see that, to live in that space and from that space. We just have to remember and then act. And what does the world say? The world says we have to do what everybody else says and does, right? And we know when we listen carefully and intently and purposefully to that guidance within, to that presence within, and make choices that serve us and the greater good, then everyone benefits. We have this power, we have the skill. We just have to decide and do it. I say it like it's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And it's within the skill set of every individual. We just have to decide and do. So I want to remind you of the words, written by Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca in his On the Tranquility of Mind. He's talking about a guy, right? He can't serve in the military? Let him seek public office. Must he live in private sector? Let him be a spokesperson. Is he condemned to silence? Let him aid his fellow citizens by silent public witness. Is it dangerous for him to enter the forum? Let him be seen in private homes, at public events and gatherings as a good associate, a faithful friend, and moderate tablemate. Has he lost the duties of citizen? What can he do when he's not even a citizen? Let him exercise those qualities of a good human being. Maybe we can't be rich, famous, or important. Maybe we don't want to be. But we can all be good human beings. With our neighbors, with the people at the grocery store, with the people at the gas station, with the people at wherever. We can all be good human beings. So I'm going to close with some pieces of Tim Burkett's Zen in the Age of Anxiety. I used some of these words in the pre-service meditation this morning, and since I was by myself for part of the time, I went ahead and made a recording. So it will be available on YouTube if you want to watch it later. Tim is a surfer in California, and he's using the metaphor of surfing the Pacific Ocean to describe a beneficial way of interacting with life. He writes, "Wave by wave is how we stay engaged with life. It's the only way to experience the immediacy and vigor of what real life offers. Sure, it's raw, but we don't need to protect ourselves from the moods and nuances of life's great ocean. We can stay right with it in placid times and in turbulent ones. Life is always offering us the energy and vitality we need." He then shared a poem by 13th century Zen master Dogen. Tim wrote, "To understand the poem, it's important to know that the moon is a metaphor for wisdom, and that birds are a metaphor for thought." Dogen wrote about not being entranced by thoughts of judgment and ridicule. This is worthy, that's not. And then a great insight arises. Here's Dogen's poem. "All my life, true and false, right and wrong, are entangled. Playing with the moon, ridiculing the wind, listening to the birds, many years wasted. Seeing the ocean white with surf. This year, I suddenly realized the surf makes the ocean." Tim continued, "Can you learn to surf the chaos and uncertainty that real life includes? You can. A surfer is powerless to change the towering wave rushing toward her. But she doesn't want to change it. She wants to surf it, and she learns to feel safe in the immense ocean of being. Even when she falls, she confidently gets right back up again to meet the next wave." We have that same opportunity all the time. Get back up, regather ourselves, rearrange our minds, remember who we are and what we are, and re-engage with life. And when we find ourselves tumbled in the big waves, we pop back out again, shake off the water out of our faces, and re-engage with life, and decide how we wish to be in the world. That's our job. We free ourselves, and in freeing ourselves, make it possible for other people to see it's possible and perhaps join us in this great task of surfing life as it is. As best you can, do that. And when you do, you bless yourself and bless us all. Thank you. So now I'm going to take a breath and relax into the prayer. And I invite you to, if I said any word or thought that engaged a thought for you, to remember yourself, to remember you as an empowered being, you having the key, you having what you need in order to be who you wish to be in the world. Hold that thought in your mind while I speak these words. I remember that one life, God's life, my life. There's no difference. And that life is also the life of every individual. Each one already lives as their understanding of the divine. And each one lives in the space of opportunity to see more, to see better, larger, more inclusive, more encompassing, more expansive life. Not because anybody's broken or damaged or limited, but because we have the opportunity. We're already safe, we're already protected, we're already enfolded in love. We have the opportunity to increase our experience of life. And it's a gift already given. And each one has that capacity, that ability, that opportunity to be more because they can. And in sharing that goodness, that aliveness, that empowerment, we empower our friends and neighbors to do the same. And that wave of life just makes room for everyone to live a more full and expansive and joyous life. So I celebrate this opportunity each one of us has to step into this experience, to step into the goodness, to step into this joyful yes. And even though we may be receiving different information with our eyes when we look at the news, that's not the truth of it. The truth of it is we live as love, all of us, and we get to embody that. So I rest in that truth and I relax into it, knowing it's not a task or a chore. It's a gift we've already received. And I let it be. And so it is.